Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Unfiltered Feed podcast. I've got with me Yash, who's busy endorsing Pepsi Zero. Uh, so, today we are here to talk about the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2026, and the group stage is done and dusted, and so are a few teams' campaigns. So, we will talk about that. So let me welcome my host, Yash. So how has your week been?
It's been a pretty relaxing week. I didn't have any lectures uh, because this was a preparatory leave for my exams that are happening next week. So I was still busy, but not as hectic.
That is good to know. While you were busy with your preparatory leave, there were a few people out there uh, going and studying in different halls, but even they will get their breaks in due lead time. So for the time being, let us focus on the World Cup. So now that the group stage is over, uh, do you think so? We all know the 8 teams that have qualified. We'll go in depth with that later on. But do you think the deserving teams have qualified, or do you think is there somewhere where a team has sneaked in and a deserving team has been left out?
Um, First of all, I'm not sure if the best teams have qualified, if that's what you mean. But I certainly believe that all the teams that have qualified have deserved their spot. The only team that I think is good enough to qualify is maybe Afghanistan. But we always knew that they were in the group of death, so one team was always going to be disappointed, and unfortunately it's Pakistan. But other than that, it's
Afghanistan.
Afghanistan. I'm sorry. I don't know why I predicted the future, but other than that, I think every single team deserves to be in the Super 8. Yes, Australia missed out, but they played some bad cricket, so it wasn't anything that they felt unlucky with. They just played poor cricket. They lost to Zimbabwe, so you can't expect to qualify after that.
Yeah. So the format for this week's podcast is very simple. First, we'll talk about some of the teams that didn't make the cut and why they didn't, and then we'll do a quick preview of the Super 8s as well with both the groups. And as we had promised earlier, we will go ahead with our predictions as well. We did a few predictions before the tournament began, and now we will predict the semi-finalists and the finalists. So let us begin with the most talked about failure from this group stage, and that is Australia. I feel they didn't have as weak a team as many kind of portrayed it to be. Yes, they didn't have Cummins and Hazelwood, and Stark has retired, so there's no point counting him. It's like saying India are missing Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. So basically, they're missing just two big names, and the replacements are also people who have played international cricket before. They're Ben Dwash, yes. I know he's not the most sought after bowler, but he's had experience. And Nathan Ellis is of course one of the best in the business. So they of course have Adam Zampa as well. So I don't think they were really missing out too much. The only thing that can be said is that Mitchell Marsh was injured for the first game and they lost that one. Uh, so more than the players missing, I think it was about the form of those who were there, because you had Maxwell, Stoinis, Tim David, Cam Green, Josh Inglis, Travis Head, Mitch Marsh. If you have that kind of a batting lineup, I find it baffling how they missed out on qualifying to the Super 8s.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think at the end of the day, it was just that the players collectively were out of form, especially the batters, because all of them have played in the IPL for so many years. So not really being familiar with the conditions is not an excuse for them. It's just that all of them are out of form, which can happen, and we've seen this with a lot of teams in the past where there's a tournament where it's just not clicking. This was similar to England in the 2023 World Cup as well. They had a very good team, but they were not in form. I think with the fast bowlers, one trick that they might have missed is that they have been over reliant on Stark, Cummins, and Hazelwood. I think this is the first ICC tournament since maybe 2015 where all three of them haven't played for Australia, which is a big shock because it's usually there's at least two of them playing, and mostly they're in form, and they are the reason why Australia does so well. But with all three of them missing, I think they have failed to really groom a fast bowler other than Nathan Ellis. And now they've found themselves in a bit of a trouble because I think Xavier Bartlett and I think Matt Cunningham, they are decent bowlers, but don't have a lot of experience of playing outside Australia and also in bigger tournaments like the ICC T20 World Cup. So this should be a learning experience, and hopefully they can carry the legacy of their former fast bowlers who have always been one of Australia's biggest strength.
This was the second tournament on the bounce where they were missing all three of their pacers. In the Champions Trophy as well, they didn't have any of them. They did make the semis over there, but you can argue that those conditions, maybe Zampa and a placeholder spinner were enough over there.
Yeah.
I did read through what Zampa had to say after the game, and he just seemed really disheartened. He was constantly. He said that this was one of the worst feelings he's had after taking a 4-4, and
Yeah.
also he said that they've constantly been second or third best in the world and competing with the best teams, and the one criticism that he does not want to accept is that the team didn't prepare enough, because most Australians don't even know how well their team is playing or preparing, because if you know the Aussies, they don't really care about cricket that's going on outside Australia and something that is not in their time zone. So most of Australia's white ball cricket has been played outside Australia. They maybe play a series or two at max in their home season, and it's mostly about Big Bash, Test cricket, and the Sheffield Shield that happens during their bumper home season. So maybe the Aussie fans didn't even realize how well the team was prepared, but we, of course, as cricket lovers, have been following them, and they have been playing some really good cricket. This, I think they had a win record of 86% in between the two T20 World Cups, and they were primed to do well here. But I think some of their selections were also absolutely shocking to me. The fact that they continued with Cooper Conley and they dropped Matt Renshaw. First of all, he shouldn't have been playing, but once he was playing, you dropped him after he was your best batter in the game.
Yeah.
After that, so there were a few decisions and a lot of poor form, and all of that combined into this disaster for Australia. I don't see how they can change things in the near future, because this is kind of their best team. Of course, Head, Mitch Marsh, Glenn Maxwell, Marcus Stoinis, these four will be doubtful for the next World Cup, but it is a home World Cup for them, so I don't know. They do have a lot to ponder about, but at the same time, it is possibly the best T20 team that they could put together. So let us move on to the second team, and that is Afghanistan for me. You did mention about them. They were in the group of death. They almost got rid of South Africa in that humdinger at Ahmedabad. I think they were very bad at decision making at times, similar to Australia. So we have always seen them do well in the ODIs and not so much in the T20s. Though T20s is what they got their initial taste of success. If you remember back in 2017 or 2018 when they started doing well in international cricket, it was in T20Is. But
Yeah.
then they never really upgraded themselves to the latest templates and the modern way of playing T20 cricket, and so they have been kind of regressing, though they made the semis in the last World Cup. So this was inevitable, and I think it is time for them to really push younger batting talent who are a bit more fearless. They have got Ibrahim Zadran, Mohammad Nabi, Darvish Rasuli. Uh, at times, I would also add Gulbuddin Naib to this list of players who just don't express themselves to the max. Gurbaz does it, but when you have so many anchors, it doesn't really help. And Azmatullah Omarzai is a very interesting prospect that they have, but he doesn't get enough balls when most of them are eaten by anchors or ODI type players. So that is one thing that they do need to work on. And their bowling is pretty much all sorted, but the only thing over there is that they don't really have a lot of pace resources that are fully developed. They have been playing in spin friendly conditions for a while, so their teams are usually also filled with spinners. So when the time comes, they will need to unleash another pacer and not just rely on Faruqi and Omarzai.
Yeah. Uh, I actually don't worry too much about Afghanistan because they are a team on the rise. As they play more ICC tournaments, I'm sure they'll get better. But like you said, I think they rely a bit too much on their spin, and I think the next few ICC tournaments, which may not be held in the Asian conditions, they might find it a bit difficult because their spin won't be as effective. For example, maybe in the World Cup next year, which is in South Africa, they'll need something more from their pace attack, and I think same goes for the next T20 World Cup, which is in Australia. So I think they will grow as they keep playing, but they were quite unfortunate with that South Africa game. Had they won that, I think uh, they still would have been knocked out because of their net run rate, but then they could have had something to play for, and they could have won the next two games quite convincingly. So you never know. So it's just one match that didn't go their way. Other than that, I think they were quite good in this World Cup.
Yeah, they had pretty much a campaign similar to what India had in 2021.
Yeah.
They lost the two most important games, and then that was pretty much it. But I think they will surely do better. Jonathan Trott leaving,
Yeah.
they want to get someone in who can spend more time in with the team and not just arrive before the series and then leave immediately after. So that is something they want, and that is what they communicated to Jonathan Trott. Hence, he's leaving after what many would call a very successful tenure
Yeah.
as the head coach. Under his leadership, they defeated England and Pakistan in the 2023 World Cup, and then they also, of course, reached the semi-finals in the 2024 T20 World Cup, defeating Australia, New Zealand, and also a crucial win against Bangladesh. So they've
Yeah.
defeated good teams to reach there. And also in the Champions Trophy last year, they defeated England again. whilst playing a 350 game. So even in those conditions, they were able to defeat England. So a lot of good things happened under his tenure, and hopefully Afghanistan can only grow from here and not regress, because
Yeah.
a certain kind of coach can have a massive impact, and it is important to choose the right person. So before we move on to the Super 8s, let us now quickly talk about a few associates, because they have been the talking point of this World Cup
Yep.
in many ways. Uh, I know a lot of people will talk about their performances, but to be very honest, as someone who has been following them for a while, it didn't surprise me at all. Seeing the way USA competed, seeing the way surely Italy did surprise, but even Nepal, the way they played, and a lot of the associate teams, they have been in and around and right about there in terms of performance. But the only thing that should happen, and maybe for new viewers, I don't know if they know this, but this is pretty much clockwork. When associates do well in the World Cup, you hear a lot of buzz around how they should be getting more attention, more funding, more games. Only then they will improve. A lot of people talk about this, and once the World Cup ends and they stop seeing them, nobody talks about them, and they're back to square one. And that has been happening for quite a while. We have seen way back in 2014, Netherlands defeated England in the T20 World Cup, and you had similar talks rising. In 2016, Afghanistan defeated West Indies. In 2022, you had Ireland defeating England. Even in 2024, you had a lot of close games. You had USA defeating Pakistan. So every time there is all this talk, but nothing materializes after that. So do you think the same will happen again, or this time, because a lot of Indians also saw this game, so there's more hype and more people are impressed? So do you think there'll be something different, or will it be the same cycle again?
Um, I mean, to be very fair, the ICC did change the format to include more associate teams. So you got to give that to them. But yeah, it's not enough. You need to back them throughout this cycle between the two World Cups. And actually, you're right, because now that Indian fans have also witnessed these teams, I think there's quite a bit of voice starting to develop on Twitter, and that's what I've been seeing, where a lot of fans and cricket experts are starting to provoke the BCCI to include or to maybe modify the IPL rules, where each team now needs to have at least one or two associate members in the squad, which is I think similar to WPL, if I'm not wrong. They had a similar rule, or some
Yeah,
other
their
leagues in
rule
the world.
was they could include a fifth overseas player in the playing
Yeah,
11 if she's a associate.
yeah. So if I mean, I'm not even demanding that, but even if you have a couple of associate players from in each IPL team, that's almost 20, and that's a huge amount of exposure for these teams. Uh, but other than that, I think they should also just try organizing a lot of series. I think you mentioned in the last podcast that there are teams like Canada and US that don't play cricket for months and they just turn up for these tournaments. So it also comes down to the ICC and the regional governing councils to maybe increase the number of games. I think Asia in that sense is well placed because I keep seeing UAE, Oman, and these teams playing against each other, which is better than nothing. So they should probably try to do the same in maybe Africa, the US, and the other parts of the world.
Yeah, the Asian Cricket Council is quite good in that regards. There were
Yeah,
a lot of pathway tournaments, and also the Premier Cup is what it is called, which
Hmm.
is kind of a qualifier for the Asia Cup. And they also expanded Asia Cup to 8 teams, though there's scope for more, but that is for
yeah,
another day.
yeah,
But I would like to see uh, these all ideas being actually implemented this time, because now between the two cycles you'll again not these teams won't have much news coverage, and they'll be forgotten very conveniently, because eh, these games are not going to generate the money for you, so you don't care. But if they think about it in this way, if they invest in these teams now, they'll end up generating money for you later. Instead of rewarding them once they're successful, maybe fund them right now so that they end up being successful, and then for the rest of their life you will earn from them. So that is something which can be thought about, because if a single India versus Pakistan game earns enough money, which even the annual funding of 98 nations combined doesn't come up to that amount, you just earn from a single India Pakistan game, then I think ICC should be asked why they cannot manage to handle these teams, or schedule handle their schedules a bit better, because
Yeah.
you have players openly saying this, that they don't play enough cricket. You have I think Ben Manenti from Italy said that now we're back to Italy, and the next time we play T20 cricket is only in 2027. And even for Netherlands, I think they play a Cricket World Cup League 2 series only in June. So basically, for the next 4 months, they don't have any cricket. So
Yeah.
I think that is something that needs to be worked on. Otherwise, the teams will forever remain just one step short of defeating the bigger nations, and we'll only talk about it when they play against the bigger nations.
Yeah,
So,
that's very, very fair. So, before moving on, I would like us and mostly you to cover two really important details. The first one is a genuine question that I have for you. Um, I mean, in when we compare both of us, I'm sure you have been tracking these associate teams much better. You've also watched. I mean, both of us have watched the two T20 World Cups, the one that happened in 2024 and the one that happened this year, right now. So I wanted to get your opinion on which associate team, or maybe a team that hasn't qualified for the Super 8, which team do you think has made the most progress from 2024 to 2026? And if you want, you can maybe also talk about teams that have declined and have kind of disappointed you. And the second point is about the teams that have already qualified for the next T20 World Cup, which is quite strange. And if possible, could you explain the whole format? Because apparently there are 12 teams that have already been confirmed.
yeah, so talking about the associates, I think if we don't just talk about the World Cup games, I would say the team that has improved the most has to be Nepal, because they were in the fringes for a while. They used to play well against a lot of the lower ranked nations, but 2024 in that World Cup they gave a very good competition to South Africa. They lost by just 1 run, and they also played close games against Bangladesh and Netherlands, but they couldn't cross the line. I'm pretty sure this year they would have done way better. Maybe the crowd, or maybe the overconfidence after the way they played against England, let them down a bit. They did defeat Scotland, but I really expected them to do well against against Italy, of course, and West Indies.
Yeah,
So if you just talk about the team's level from the last tournament, it has gone up a lot. Though they couldn't quite show it in this World Cup, I think give them a couple more years and they are going to really do well.
yeah,
Uh, I think USA, they proved to everyone that they were just not a one time wonder kind of a side, because they did do really well this time as well.
yeah,
Last time they reached the Super 8s, I think they were one Surya Kumar Yadav wicket away from doing it this time
Yeah.
in that very first game. So the way they played against Netherlands and Namibia was really good, and they were not completely outplayed by either India or Pakistan. They were in the contest for quite a while in both those games, which is quite good for them considering how little cricket they play. Coming back to the same point, but uh, just imagine if these teams play regularly against good nations or good teams, or they're getting good training facilities, how better will they play? Because if they're
Yeah.
doing, if they're performing in this fashion with this kind of training, they can surely do a lot better if they get the right amount of match practice and all of that. One team that disappointed me, and what is more disappointing is I'm very much related to that country, that is Oman. They just don't seem to improve, do they?
Yeah.
In the last World Cup, they were the oldest team. In this World Cup, they are still the oldest team, with almost 10 to 12 different members this time from the last squad. So they changed their team, but they still went with the old folks, which is quite surprising. In an era where every single team is focusing on getting in young talent and grooming them, I don't think Oman are really in the same league as the rest of the teams.
Yeah.
Uh, I wouldn't say a single other side is this plagued by lack of talent as Oman are.
Yeah,
And
I
it's not that,
completely agree. I think
yeah,
every other team had at least one match that was close. There were teams that lost all 4 games. I think Namibia did that. But they were at least close when it comes to one match, I think against Netherlands, if I'm not wrong. But Oman, they literally lost every single game one-sided, and it was quite embarrassing.
yeah. Honestly, I don't see them making it to the next World Cup. I see them being replaced by maybe Japan or Kuwait from the Asia or East Asia Pacific qualifiers. So that really disappointed me, because if you remember 10 years back, they had that famous win against Ireland in the
Yeah,
World Cup qualifiers in India, and a lot of promises were made, at least to me, but they really couldn't fulfill them. Jatinder
yeah,
Singh was kind of seen as a prodigy by me,
yeah,
and he's from my school as well, our school, and he has absolutely stagnated and has gone nowhere with his game. Surely the uh, players being kicked out of the country didn't help,
yeah,
but it's not that they tried to improve their case. So they just went with another bunch of old players instead of the one they had. So it didn't really make a difference, and at no point did they look like competing, even against Ireland, who 10 years ago they defeated. But you can see when Ireland have kind of transformed in some way, though they're still behind a lot of the major teams. Ireland were one of the actually disappointing teams of the World Cup, and yet they were at least 5 notches ahead of Oman. So it feels a bit embarrassing to me. Kind of
yeah.
hype I provide to them, they can't perform, but I think it's time for me to kind of move on from them a bit and
Yeah,
let their cricket fade away.
there's a funny story that I would like to share. When Ved was young, in his dreams, he would coach Oman and they would win multiple tournaments, which is why he's extremely passionate. And having lived in the country, we are very passionate for them to do well. And to be honest, they did defeat Zimbabwe, I think, in the warm ups. So it looked quite good. And I don't know
And
what has
they also
happened.
defeated Sri Lanka A, so I was really
Yeah.
hopeful.
So they just gave us false hope and completely did nothing. But I think with that said, the World Cup for 2026, 2028, sorry.
Yeah, so the 2028 World Cup, for now, I don't see ICC changing the format. So it's going to remain a 20 team tournament with the same format. And you've got the 8 teams from the Super 8s of this World Cup automatically qualifying for the next edition. And 4 more spots have been filled. So what they do is they leave 8 spots for the qualifiers and 8 from the Super 8s. So the 4 that are in between are filled by the teams that are the highest ranked in the ICC rankings right now, which is a bit weird because considering the World Cup is in another 2 years or 2.5 years, it doesn't make sense to shortlist the teams now. But they want to reward those teams who missed out on Super 8s but are still ranked high enough. So those 4 are Bangladesh, Scotland, no, Bangladesh, Ireland, Afghanistan, and the
And
hosts Australia.
Australia. Yeah.
So those are the 4, and then the 8 from the Super 8s, which includes Zimbabwe as
Yeah.
well.
So had Australia qualified, I don't think Zimbabwe would have made it. Because are they ranked in the top 12?
Uh, I don't think so.
So
I think you would have had maybe Netherlands qualifying. They're the
yeah,
next highest. So Zimbabwe really good, but they were not far away from not making it directly. I think it's good that you're rewarding the teams who qualified for the Super 8s by giving them a direct spot to the next edition, and the 8 qualifier spots which will be filled after the qualifiers are played. Uh, you've got 3 from Asia and East Asia Pacific. These are the 2 that they combined last time around, so maybe
yeah,
they'll stay the same. So 3 from there, you've got 2 from Africa to make it 5. You've got 2 from Europe, and then 1 from Americas. So those are the 8 spots. So the immediate problem that you see there is that you've got Scotland, Italy, and Netherlands who will play the qualifiers, but only 2 teams making it. So there are chances that Italy have already played their final World Cup, or at least in the near future, they won't return again. And then another problem there is that USA and Canada will both fight for a single spot. So after making it to 2 consecutive events, this time around you'll have only 1 from USA or Canada, 1 from those 2. And another good news for a few African fans who are listening to this podcast, which is equal to 0. Since Zimbabwe made it through directly, they won't be competing in the qualifiers. So the 2 spots are still there, but you've got 1 less team competing. So an extra team other than Zimbabwe will make it through. I see Namibia qualifying for sure. So that leaves 1 more spot for Uganda, Kenya, Nigeria. All of them were doing really well. And let me tell you, Uganda are not favorites. I
oh,
see a very much rising Nigerian side who can come through as well. So a lot of interesting qualifiers coming up. I would like to see a global qualifier, just because one thing is that teams will be selected more on merit because they'll play every other eligible side. The only thing that will not be possible through global qualifiers is accommodating all the teams. You can't have all the 40-45 teams that compete across all these to play together in a single qualifier.
yeah,
So there should be a pathway tournament where you shortlist a few of the best by playing those regional qualifiers and then play one single global qualifier, maybe with 16 or 20 teams. What would be interesting is a 20-team tournament for the qualifiers, just like the main World Cup, and then you
Good luck with
select.
finding fans. I think there will be even less fans than our viewers at this point.
Yeah, but anyways, the regional qualifiers do not attract any viewership. They're streamed for free on ICC TV, so it's not like it's going to make a difference, but it's a better structure for
Yeah, yeah.
shortlisting teams that deserve it.
I
But
just
that is for
think,
another day.
yeah, I think the only caveat with that is, um, is that with a global qualifying tournament, there's a high chance that most of the teams are only from one region, and there may be certain regions that are completely left out. So, for example, there could be no teams from the Americas and 6 teams from Europe, which I think defeats ICC's purpose of making cricket a global tournament. So, although this format is not the best, I think certainly there are a few teams that are better that haven't made it through just because of the limited spots. But that's how it has to be.
Yeah, so now that we have put our hand into this jar, let us go a little bit deeper. The 8 teams that will qualify, uh, I think they want to make it a global sport while they are not actively doing much for it. In these kind of aspects, that is where the first excuse that comes out is that they want to make it a global sport. So uh, I think the thing they can do is to reconsider the split a bit,
Yeah.
because the only way in the near future you have to expand it to accommodate teams. As you can see, we have 20 teams, and yet we can see teams missing out, which means there is a need to further expand this tournament.
Which is very good.
Yeah, it's a good sign, and when more of competitive cricket is played between these teams, the faster they will grow. So
Yeah.
we do come back to our original point, but that is really the only way we can make faster progress. So what I'm predicting is for the 2030 edition, which will be played in
Hmm.
England, Ireland, and Scotland, to be a 24 team World Cup. And I would love that. The fans would love it. And considering you've got a fresh cycle, the broadcast rights will be sold before that, so you can easily make a change at that time. And also, England or that region of the world being kind of the central hub for all the fans, I don't see a problem with viewership as well as the attendance. So that could
Yeah.
be a really good one.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, as you said, expansion is the only solution maybe to this. And I seriously hope that the BCCI also takes matters in its control to promote more of associate cricket. As I said, IPL is a very good platform for these teams. You saw teams like Afghanistan have basically the IPL was their biggest platform for all of their players, because I think Rashid Khan, Mohammad Nabi, and all of their initial superstars kind of became famous because of the IPL. So I'm sure it can happen for other countries. It's just that the teams should be forced to include associate players, because I'm not sure if they give them an option, they'll always go for better players. But they should kind of make it compulsory to have associate players. But with that, I think enough talk about the teams that have not made the Super 8s. Now it's time to talk about the exciting part of this World Cup.
Yeah, the ones who did make it. So everybody knows the groups. There's no point going through them again. So we'll just go group wise and talk about each team and try and look forward rather than backward, because whatever has happened, we can take a few cues with regards to the form, but it's important to see how they will play going ahead.
Yeah,
So
I think I would like to start. with Group B, and this is one prediction that I'm very proud of because exactly 1 week back when we had our mid-session review for the league stage, I was confident that Zimbabwe will make it through to the Super 8s, and you were constantly backing Australia. So, what are your thoughts now? Because Zimbabwe have topped the group; they haven't just made it through.
Yeah, I think that we had recorded it after Zimbabwe defeated Australia, and I had predicted Australia to defeat Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka to defeat Zimbabwe, and
Yeah.
both of those predictions were also wrong. So I did say that I hope rain doesn't play a part, and rain also did play a part in Ireland getting knocked out. So it was a pretty embarrassing run of events for me, but really proud of the way Zimbabwe played, because one win can be a fluke. Two times maybe things went your way, but when you win three in a row, it means that you are deserving. And full credit to Zimbabwe, and they've topped the group, which is unbelievable. They did defeat Australia, but for me, what was even more surprising was the way they defeated Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
Chasing 180, they made it look really easy. So, hats off to them.
So, do you see them going any further in this tournament? Because they are in the first group in Super 8, so they will be playing India, South Africa, and West Indies. So, what are your thoughts on Zimbabwe's chances?
As much as I would like to see them do well, I see them going winless in the
Oh,
Super 8s.
wow.
Just because they're playing good teams and the venues are not quite in their favor. They're playing South Africa in Ahmedabad, which is the only game I see them uh, pushing the opponent close. They play India in Chennai. I think even if Chennai is pretty much a flat deck now, I don't see Zimbabwe competing against India over there. And they play West Indies at the Wankhede, which is which was uh, all set to be a massive marquee clash between Australia and West Indies at the Wankhede. But I hope Zimbabwe don't disappoint, and I'm sure they won't. But I think West Indies are have experience playing at the Wankhede, and they will get the better of Zimboys.
Yeah, unfortunately, I also agree with this. Zimbabwe, although they have done well, they are still a cut behind India and South Africa. And West Indies, they are playing really well in this World Cup. If you had asked me before this World Cup, I think I would have given Zimbabwe some chance, but looking at how West Indies are playing, it's going to be tough. Sri Lanka is the second team that made it through. And this campaign really reminds me of New Zealand in 2015 in the World Cup, where they played almost every single game up until the final in New Zealand, and they had a lot of home support and they won a lot of games. And the moment they went to Australia, they got torn and tattered in the final. So I'm seeing something similar for Sri Lanka because they keep playing their matches in Sri Lanka. If they play Pakistan, the semi-final also will happen in Sri Lanka. So that is a high chance. I think they can make it through to the semi-finals, and then we'll see what happens in the final if they make it. But they have looked really solid. It's just that one loss. Other than that, the batting looks in form. They have had an injury crisis, so despite that, they have done well. So credit to them. But I hope they have sufficient players to stay fit and take them through.
Yeah, I think Hasaranga and Pathiran were two of your X factors in
Yeah.
the bowling department, and you've lost both of them, which is a bit disappointing for them. Nisanka has been pretty much carrying this team, though Kusal Mendes did score a few 50s, three if I'm not wrong in a row, but the real impact has been made by Nisanka. I feel the bowling is going to let them down, because they will play at Palekele, if I'm not wrong, a couple of games, and that is where the dew comes, and it's the most batting friendly track in Sri Lanka.
Yeah,
So if God forbid they don't win the toss and they put to bat first, I find it very hard to think that the bowlers will be able to defend anything below 200, and on bad days even 210 can be chased against them. So it's really difficult for me to see them qualify from there. But the one thing that I can't put against them is their willpower and their ability to just fight back when the odds are against them. We've seen them do that a lot of times in the past, and I think something in the home crowd that gets them going, that
yeah,
will also play a factor. I think that entire group, if we move on and talk about the entire group, you've got Sri Lanka, England, Pakistan, and New Zealand. I think all of them have got their flaws in some way or the other. So more than being about the perfect side, it's about making lesser mistakes.
yeah, yeah,
So that is what that group is about. New Zealand, for me, are one of those teams when it's all about making less mistakes and sticking to your basics. I think New Zealand does get the job done.
yeah,
I think that is what will happen, though they have a few injury concerns themselves. Maybe Lockie Ferguson had gone back to New Zealand and he's back, and maybe Matt Henry is now gone, so they're taking turns with their paternity leaves. Uh, Mitchell Santner had a stomach ache and missed out last game, and
okay.
their backup spinner looks really horrible, to say the least. Was McConchy. I really hope Santner is back. So
He
New
will be,
Zealand,
yeah, he'll be very useful in the Sri Lankan conditions, Mitchell
yeah.
Santner.
So for me, New Zealand look good. The batting looks settled. England, I'm not really sure.
Hmm.
I think Josh Butler not performing has been a big blow to them. And Phil Salt has gotten a few starts, but you know Phil Salt, when he gets going, he'll kill the game, or he absolutely doesn't get going. So there's a lot of problems in England as well.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why I'm predicting Sri Lanka to qualify because I think England struggle. They struggled in Indian conditions, and in Sri Lanka it's going to be a bit difficult to a next degree for them. So I think England will make mistakes. They will, their batters will throw wickets, which is why I think Sri Lanka would make it through. I think New Zealand and Sri Lanka are fairly balanced, but the home support and just the momentum will help Sri Lanka. The last team in this group is Pakistan, and they looked really good in the first few games, but then the loss against India was really terrible. It kind of exposed them, but then they came back and they won their last game pretty convincingly in the end. So it's very difficult to predict what Pakistan will do, uh, but I think they have the potential to make it to the semi-finals. I just hope that the loss against India doesn't demotivate or demoralize them, and they just stick to their plans and do what they do best.
Yeah, I think England, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, all of them, it's very hard to predict which team turns up for the particular game. They're very up and down, and it can be good for you sometimes, but most times it's also a bit bad, because
Yeah,
it, it's very difficult to kind of have a fixed pattern in your gameplay, and
yeah,
that is very important. I think in global tournaments where you're competing against the best, it's important to kind of have some expectations from yourself, or have some consistency in your side, which all three of them lack. It makes for a lot of entertainment, but I don't think it helps to have such a side, such a volatile side. Pakistan, I think their batting will come good. Uh, Other than the India game, I think they haven't done too badly, I would say. The bowling was the one that was expected to win them games, but against USA they scored, or they put on 200, I think, and against Namibia as well. So, two times out of the three wins, it's the batters who have uh, done the job for them. I think the decision to use Babar Azam only as a fail-safe batter is very good, and finally they have learned. They didn't put him into bat against Namibia, and they ended up scoring 200. So it's important to sometimes keep reputation aside and stick to the situation, which is what they did.
Yeah.
I think Saibzada and Saim Ayub are good opening pair, and it also gives them a lot of flexibility because Saim Ayub most days can give you 4 overs with the ball as well. So
Yeah.
you go very deep with your batting, and that is something they have played with in this tournament. I see them defeating New Zealand. I don't know why, though New Zealand are the more sensible team, I would say, but Pakistan, I just have a feeling they'll get past New Zealand. So England and Sri Lanka. So it's basically for me, what I see. Even though they will defeat New Zealand, I see New Zealand qualifying. I don't ask me how I came up with that, but my prediction. If we want to move on to the predictions in
Yeah.
Group Two.
Actually, let's discuss. I'm sorry. Let's discuss Group One as well, and then we can go to our predictions for both the groups. So in Group
I think
One, I
Group
think
2 was a bit chaotic, so
yeah.
we'll go a bit more structured with Group 1.
Initially, when they announced the preceding, I thought that Group One was really difficult because they had India, Australia, and South Africa. But now, suddenly, Group 1 feels extremely straightforward with India, South Africa, and West Indies, Zimbabwe. I think India, South Africa, they have. I mean, the interesting part is that all four teams have gone unbeaten. But I think India and South Africa have looked very dominating in all four of their games. Both teams had one close game, which they managed to win, which is also very important. But other than that, they've looked quite convincing. So, what are your thoughts on this group?
Yeah, I think, to be very honest, the most convincing team in this group for me is West Indies. uh, they had a quite a tricky group, and I hadn't predicted them to come out of it
Yeah.
with ease, but they did, and I think they played their best cricket against the best side, England, and they were quite convincing against Nepal, Scotland, and Italy as well. So they had a perfect group stage. In some ways, Zimbabwe, though many didn't predict it, but if you remove that pre-tournament expectations, they also had a very, very good group stage.
Yeah.
They looked convincing in all three games, which is quite remarkable for them. South Africa, I think they did struggle against Afghanistan, and they weren't supposed to win that game, but they did, which is also, as you mentioned, something that can help boost the confidence of a side. But honestly, South Africa have done well, but something in me, something tells me that they don't seem to be a champion side for some reason.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think they will compete against India for sure and West Indies. But the way I see this group panning out is India, because they're superior, they will win all three games. That's what I can see happening. And for me, South Africa versus West Indies will decide the second team from this group, because that will be kind of a virtual knockout. I don't see Zimbabwe troubling any of the sides, to be honest. Though they have had a very good group stage, but the conditions are different here and the teams are different. So that is how I see this group happening. South Africa and West Indies very close for me,
Yeah.
but my gut says West Indies.
That's very interesting. I'm backing South Africa. I think they haven't shown their full potential, which is very good. Similar to India, I think India also haven't shown their real strength because, as you can see from my username today, Abhishek Sharma, he's created a record. He's the quickest to three ducks as an Indian in T20 World Cups. He's broken Ashish Nehra's record. Not the record you want to break, but without him scoring even one run, India have won four games. So imagine if he comes to the party, what will happen? That's a really dangerous thought for all the other teams. I was also just looking at the groups itself, and it's kind of not worked out in ICC's favor because all the four first place teams have made it to one group. So they're technically the best four sides in this World Cup. So now I think it's time to predict which two teams will make it through. I think you have made yours very clear, but would you like to formally make your
Yeah,
predictions?
I think from Group 1, I'll say India and West Indies make it through. And from Group 2, I would say New Zealand and Pakistan to make it through. So after that, honestly, I have no idea how this tournament works and what is the way the semi-finals will be lined up. So I'll end my predictions over there for now.
I'm going to differ with you for both the groups. I'm backing South Africa and India from Group 1. And from Group 2, I'm going to back the two Asian sides in Sri Lanka and Pakistan. And I'd like to go ahead and predict that we won't have two Asian teams in the final. So it could be India who miss out, or Pakistan, or Sri Lanka. But we will have South Africa in the final. That's what I'm predicting.
Okay, so you're saying India, South Africa, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan will make it to the semis. So then just go on and predict the venues for the semis as well.
So from what I understand, they don't want an India-Pakistan semi-final, which forces Sri Lanka to leave their home crowd and come to India, which is more unfair for Sri Lanka because they were the hosts, and it's very, very unfair. But I think Sri Lanka India will be the semi-final in Wankhede, which India may or may not win. I'm not sure. India should win. You never know. And the second semi-final will be in Colombo, which is very funny because Sri Lanka will play their semi-final in India, and Pakistan and South Africa, who are the two away teams, will play their match in Colombo, which should be a very exciting contest.
Yeah, so I would really like to ask ICC, uh, have they not thought about the way this tournament will end? Because if India and Pakistan finish at the top of, if India and Sri Lanka finish at the top of their groups, for example,
Yeah.
and you have South Africa and Pakistan finish in the second place, then anybody in the world can say that the first place team from one group plays the second place team in the other group. But no, that will be India Pakistan, and India want to play in Mumbai, Pakistan want to play in Colombo. So no, we can't have that semi-final. That is what I believe, because there's no way you can have one team play in Mumbai and the other play in Colombo. So they will go against what your groups are suggesting you and make the two table toppers play the semi and the two second place teams play the other semi. I think this is absolutely absurd, and I don't know if this is actually what they're thinking to do, because that would really be I would go on to say that would be the dumbest move I've ever seen in the history of cricket. And
Yeah.
this is just, I have no words to express this, because you're playing a Super 8 format. You've got two groups of four teams to decide who's the best team in each group, and if you end up making them compete against each other, not for the trophy but a game before that, then what's the point? So it
Yeah,
all doesn't make sense to me.
yeah, and I'm also very sad for Sri Lankan fans because uh, India is most. It's 99% sure that India will make it to the semi-finals, and if that happens, Sri Lankan fans will have to pray that Pakistan don't make it to the semis. Otherwise, Sri Lanka will have to play their semi in India, which is very, very sad for them because I think it was pre-decided that the final will be played in India. So, being the co-host, Sri Lanka definitely deserves to play the semi-final if they make it, obviously, in Sri Lanka. But now it's very unlikely if Pakistan qualify, then they don't basically get to play in front of their fans, and then it's going to be very tough for them to make it through.
Yeah, so what I understand is if India and Pakistan qualify for the finals, then India are ready to go and play in Colombo and play an away final. But uh, if it's a semi final against Pakistan, then they don't want to play against them outside of Wankhede. So it doesn't make sense because you would rather sacrifice a semi final which is away from your home and then come back and play the final in your home rather than play a home semi final and if you win that go and play the final away. So I don't quite understand that either. So it's quite confusing and hopefully we get some clarity of this before the Super 8s end because it would be very weird if the Super 8s end and we don't know who's going to play whom.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree, and I think this is also why the ICC is considering moving the Champions Trophy in 2029 from India to a different country because they don't want this confusion because it ultimately just defeats the purpose of the sport. And I think
Yeah.
it's a big, it's very unfortunate, but this is what's happening right now.
Yeah, and 2031, the Men's ODI World Cup is supposed to be co-hosted by India and Bangladesh, which is definitely not happening now. At least if the conditions remain in this way, you never know. Uh, Something miraculous can happen, but I think it would be better if, rather than waiting till the last minute and then seeing that the conditions have not improved and then shifting it. It would be better to just not let any of these nations host them until they sort out their issues because you don't want
Yeah,
such political drama in between sport.
exactly. So I think with that, this review comes to an end. The first Super 8 match is going to start in a few hours. It's, I think, New Zealand taking on Pakistan, which is quite an exciting contest. And I think we'll be back next weekend for the halfway review of the Super 8s. And by then, hopefully, we'll have a better picture of who's going to make it to the semi final.
Yes, so see you very soon with a lot of content lined up, and until then, it's a goodbye from us.
Bye.